I think it's, yeah, factoring using long division and stuff.
Let me turn my writing tool on here and go ahead.
Okay, so the first problem just says divide using polynomial long division, and it's x squared plus x minus 17 divided by x minus 4.
Now, first of all, when you're doing polynomial division, whether you're doing it by long division or synthetic, you have to allow for every degree of x. In other words, we have an x squared, we have an x, that's all we need. If this x wasn't there, I would need to put a 0 and put it in there as a dummy marker.
Okay.
Okay? The way you do long division here is really quite simple. You start by dividing that into that. What do you get? Just the x into the x squared.
Okay.
What do you get?
You get just x.
Okay. Now you take that answer and you multiply it by both terms. So you get x squared minus 4x. And now, as is typical in all long division, you are subtracting. So subtract one line from the above. What do you get?
So you get negative 3x. And yeah, that's all.
Actually,
minus
you get here's what we got. We got 1x on top minus a minus 4x.
Okay.
5x. Turn it into an addition problem. Becomes 5x.
Okay.
So that's 5x. Now you bring down the next term, just like you always used to, with just regular long division. And you repeat. In other words, you repeat as many times as is necessary. If this was x to the 9th, then we would repeat it 9 times. In this case, now I'm going to divide that into that. What do I get?
You get 5x.
You get just plus 5.
Okay.
I'm dividing 5x by x.
Okay.
Now I take the 5 and I multiply it by both terms. So I get 5x minus 20. Then I subtract. What do I get when I subtract?
You get negative 3. No, not negative 3. Negative 37.
No, you were closer the first time. You got minus 17 minus a minus 20.
Okay.
Don't drop negative signs. The biggest mistake most of my students make is they're dying to drop a negative sign. They hate negative signs so much that they just want to drop them all the time. Well, you can't drop them ever.
Okay.
I'm taking minus 17 and I am subtracting minus 20. So that becomes plus 3.
Okay.
And that's it. In other words, that's the remainder, is 3. I can't divide x into 3.
Okay.
So this becomes plus the remainder divided by the divisor. So there's your answer.
Okay.
You could say a remainder of 3, but it's not as accurate as 3 divided by x minus 4.
Okay.
All right, what else you got? Now, have you learned synthetic division yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, we won't get into it until you get there.
Okay. So then the next one is x cubed plus 3x squared plus 3x plus 2 divided by x minus 1.
Again, we are not missing any degrees of x in the dividend, in the polynomial under the radical. So we don't need to add any dummy markers. Like I said, if you didn't have that term there, you'd have to put a 0x. Otherwise, your division isn't going to come out right. Okay. So far they haven't given you that. Okay, so you do this one for me. What's the first step?
So first I'm going to want to divide the x into x cubed.
Okay, what do you get?
I get x cubed, yeah.
What's that equal to? Can you see that incidentally? That's not covered up, is it?
No, it's not. That would be x squared, right?
All right. Now what?
Then I'm going to want to multiply with the rest of the terms.
Okay, so what should I start writing down here? That is always
x to the fifth.
Same by definition. In other words, if you did your division correctly, this has to be x cubed, right?
Okay.
Okay, what's the next term?
3x to the fifth?
No, you're multiplying this times that.
Okay, so negative x cubed.
Negative x squared. In other words, is all you're doing is multiplying x squared times negative 1.
Okay.
Now subtract.
So that would be x, just x.
You got 3x squared minus a minus x squared. These are real easy. You just got to put in all your negative signs. The only reason you're getting confused on it is because you're trying to do the whole thing in your head. And when you're doing subtraction, you really kind of need to do it in 2 steps. If you're subtracting 2 numbers and one of them's a negative number, it's hard to do that in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the answer to that?
That's 4x cubed. I squared.
All right. Next step.
And so then, would I be subtracting 3x?
No.
Minus?
The next step is to bring down the next term.
Okay.
Always. At every level. Okay. And now begin again. In other words, everything now is just duplicating what you've done.
So would I bring 3x to next to the x squared?
Which is I've done. You can see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now start again, as if you were starting a brand new problem. Divide x into 4x squared.
Okay, so that would be 4x, just 4x.
And you need the sign. It's plus 4x. If I don't put that plus there, it doesn't have any meaning. I'm looking at x squared next to a 4x. So I have to have the plus sign. It's not one that I can ignore.
Okay.
Okay, now what's the next thing I'm going to write under this?
X cubed.
No, you're multiplying this by both terms.
Okay. So that would be 4x squared.
Always going to be the same as the term above it.
Okay. And then minus 3x.
Minus 4x. I'm multiplying 4 times minus 1.
Okay.
You see that? I'm multiplying that by that number right there.
Mhm.
Okay, now subtract. What do you get?
So x squared minus x.
Where the x squareds go to 0. They always do, just like that went to 0.
Okay.
So the only thing you have to do is that. Subtract. What do you get?
Negative x.
Nope. You got 3x
Never an x.
minus a minus 4x. Do it in 2 steps. You're missing all of these subtraction problems because you're doing it in 1 step. This is a 2-step problem. I am subtracting a negative number, so I got to turn it into an addition problem. Now what is it? 3x plus 4x.
So that would be 7x.
Next step.
Then the next step would be bringing it to the top again.
Bring down the 2. The next step is always to bring down the next term.
Okay.
And then repeat. Do it one more time.
Okay, so it would be plus 7x plus 2.
No. X goes into 7x how many times? 7x divided by x. What is that?
That's just 7.
Okay. It's plus 7. Now multiply the 7 by both terms. What do you get?
7x minus 7.
Now subtract for your remainder.
So it would be 9.
There you go. So the remainder is 9. So I could just write r of 9, but that's not as good as writing plus 9 divided by x minus 1. So there's your answer.
Okay.
And if you were to multiply that times that answer, you would get that. Exactly. You would get the dividend. In other words, when you divide a dividend by a divisor, you get a quotient, and then the quotient multiplied by the divisor gives you the dividend.
Okay.
By definition. Okay, what else?
So then 5x to the 4th minus 2x cubed.
I better write this a little further up because I'm going to run out of room like I did on the last one. 5x to the 4th.
Minus 5x cubed minus 8x squared plus 13x minus 12 divided by x minus 6.
Okay, again, we're not missing anything, so we don't have to worry about these dummy markers. They haven't given you any problems like that yet. When they do, just remember, in other words, if I didn't have this 8x squared there, I would have to make that plus 0x squared.
Okay.
For the math to work out. Okay? I don't know if you can tell where I'm pointing, but here's where I'm pointing. What goes right there?
X.
No. What you're doing is dividing this term by that. Always. Always the first term divided by x. That's all it is. Real simple. What's 5x to the 4th divided by x?
5x to the 3rd.
Now what? Now I got to write 2 terms right there. What are they going to be? 5x
5x to the 3rd.
No. This term always has to be the same as the term above it. Otherwise, I didn't do my division right if it's not.
Okay.
You see why? In other words, I divided x into 5x to the fourth to get 5x cubed. And now I'm multiplying 5x cubed times x. So I better come up with the same exact thing, 5x to the fourth.
Okay.
If I don't, I've made a big mistake in my division.
Okay.
What goes next to that?
30x cubed minus 30x cubed.
Now what?
And then
You know it's always subtraction, because that's the only way you're ever going to get 0 there every time, is if you're always subtracting.
Okay. And so then it would be 25x cubed. And then the next step would be to bring 25x cubed to the top and multiply it by x.
No. Next step is to always bring down the next term.
Okay.
In other words, I want 2 terms down there. Always.
Okay.
You know what I mean by bringing it down? Is all I'm doing is dropping that minus x squared down to my line.
Okay.
Now start again. Do the whole thing over, exactly the same method.
So then we get 25x to the fourth.
No, you're dividing x into 25x cubed.
Okay, so 25x to the second, or 25x.
Now let's fill in this part down here.
Okay, so that would be first 25x squared.
No, it's got to be the same as the term above it. In other words, what you're doing is multiplying 25x squared times x.
Okay.
That's 25x cubed. Now multiply 25x squared times minus 6.
So that would be negative 150x squared.
Okay, now this is always going to be 0. So do the subtraction on the other term.
So that would be 142x squared.
What's the next step?
Bring down 13x.
There you go. Stir and repeat.
So then that would be 142x squared. Then.
Oh, no. Notice that every term gets 1 less power. In other words, we're dividing a quartic by a linear factor. So I know I'm going to end up with a cubic. And my first term of my cubic is going to be x cubed. The next term is going to be x squared. The next term is going to be x. And the next term is going to be a number. But when you multiply 142x times x, you get 142x squared.
Yeah.
Plus what? What's the rest of it?
Plus,
it's actually minus.
Minus, let me quickly.
Yeah, I think that is going to be 832.
I think I did the math and said 852, but double check.
Well, I did it in my head. So did you use a calculator?
Yeah, so it's 852 on the calculator.
Okay. I trust that more than I do my head. So. Okay. Next line.
So then that would be 0 and
I never write that 0 because it's always 0.
Okay. 839x.
Next step.
So bring down the 12.
It's minus 12, okay.
And then multiply, not multiply, yeah. So.
Oh, divide. It's always dividing is the first step. Whenever you have a new row, the very first step is you're dividing that into that.
Okay. So then it would be plus 839.
Now when you multiply that, whatever 6 times 839 is going to be what goes under the minus 12. So what's your calculator say?
So what is it? 839?
839 times 6.
That says 5,034.
Okay, and since I'm subtracting a negative, that comes out to be 5,022. So that's my remainder is plus 5,022, and it's always divided by your divisor, x minus 6.
Okay.
So above the radical sign is your answer.
Okay.
Okay. But keep in mind a couple of things. That when you, whatever that degree is, and if I'm dividing it by x to the 1, I'm going to end up with a cubic. When this was a cubic, I ended up with a quadratic. When that was a quadratic, I ended up with a linear term. So it's always one less than whatever the degree of this polynomial inside the radical is.
Okay.
And if it's not that, that's a key that you've made a mistake somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, now if I was dividing by x squared, then it's different. Then it's not, it's going to be a squared as the first term. Because x squared into 5x to the 4th is 5x squared.
Okay.
Okay. But this is a little harder than it seems also, because actually I would need to divide that by x squared plus 0x minus 6.
Okay.
If I was dividing by x squared. In other words, I need those dummy markers even in the divisor. I don't need it just in the dividend. I need it in the divisor also.
Okay.
Okay. All right. What else you got? You got about 5 minutes.
Okay. So then 3x cubed plus 11x squared plus 4x plus 1 divided by x squared plus x.
All right. I think we're okay just doing this exactly the same way.
Okay.
Okay. I don't need a dummy marker for the constant that's missing. At least I don't think I do. So the first step is what?
So divide 3x cubed by x squared.
What do you get?
3x.
Next step?
Then multiply 3x times x squared to get 3x cubed. And then plus 3x squared. Then subtract to get 8x squared. And then divide it by x.
Got to bring down that next term.
Then bring down 4x, right?
Now repeat the whole process.
So then divide that by x squared to get 8. And then multiply that by 8x squared and x get 8x squared plus 8x. Then subtract, I'd get negative 4x. Then bring down the plus 1.
Now, at this point, I know that is a remainder because it's a lesser degree than what I'm dividing by. I'm dividing by x squared. This is already an x. So now my remainder is 4x plus 1 divided by x squared plus x.
Okay.
And that's simplified because I can't really simplify that anymore. The only thing is I believe that has to be a minus 1.
Okay.
Because that's your remainder right there. And I'm not subtracting the whole remainder. In other words, if I want to subtract the whole remainder, I got to write that like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I turned it into a negative 1 instead of a plus 1. Because if I'm going to put this negative sign in front of that remainder, then I got to make sure that the numerator stays 4x plus 1, and it only does that if I put a negative sign in front of the 1.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have answers on these?
I think so.
Curious
Yeah.
to see what the answer they would give on this one.
Okay.
If you can look it up quickly.
Yeah. Let's see. So it said, yeah, 3x plus 8 and then negative 4x plus 1 over x squared plus x.
Do they use any parentheses at all?
It did not have any parentheses, no.
But they say 4x plus 1.
I think it said negative 4x plus 1.
So this is actually a plus. That's a minus, and that's a plus.
Yeah.
Which comes out to be the same as minus 4x minus 1 over x squared plus x. In other words, that is the same as that is.
Okay.
Okay, it's just written differently. And it depends on whether you want to use parentheses or not.
Okay.
All right. Jonathan, you good to go?
Yep.
All right. Good luck. Have a good rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you next time.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.